In a quiet corner of Italy in the early 1990s, three boys were born who would eventually change the face of classical pop forever. Gianluca Ginoble arrived in Rosetto degli Abruzzi in 1995, his voice already carrying the weight of a mature soul despite his youth. Piero Barone was born in Naro, Sicily in 1993, exuding a confidence that could light up any room and a voice that could melt even the coldest heart. Ignazio Boschetto, the youngest of the three, came into the world in Bologna in 1994, a boy with a sparkle in his eyes and a tenor that would one day soar above concert halls and stadiums alike. Each grew up far apart, in towns where music was a thread woven into daily life but rarely a ticket to global stages. Their early years were spent in humble classrooms, singing in church choirs, school events, and local competitions, where the applause was polite and the stakes were small, yet the dreams were enormous. By 2009, these three young men were already chasing the same distant star, though none of them knew the others existed. Gianluca was performing in regional competitions, his baritone already capturing emotional depth beyond his years. Piero had been honing his craft under the tutelage of local teachers in Sicily, learning to balance bravado with delicate phrasing. Ignazio was traveling with small orchestras, his tenor voice bright and hopeful, captivating everyone in small theaters across Emilia-Romagna. That year, the television contest Ti lascio una canzone opened doors that would forever change their lives. Each boy walked into the studio separately, unaware that destiny had plans to merge their paths. When the producers suggested combining their voices, the three looked at each other with hesitation and curiosity. The first notes they sang together were tentative, almost fragile. But by the time the chorus swelled, it became clear this was not just harmony. This was magic. Their voices intertwined in a way that defied logic, a blending of youth and classical mastery that drew tears from judges and audience alike. The Italian public quickly embraced them, and the birth of Il Volo was official. It was 2009, and the world had caught its first glimpse of what would become an international phenomenon. By 2010, Il Volo had signed a major record deal, a rare achievement for Italian artists so young and so rooted in classical tradition. Their debut album, simply titled Il Volo, was released later that year and became a sensation, not just in Italy, but internationally. The album fused operatic pop with accessible melodies, breathing new life into classics like O Sole Mio, which quickly climbed charts across Europe and the United States. Suddenly, the three boys from small towns were walking a path that few could have imagined. Their voices reached audiences far beyond Italian borders, and they became a symbol of Italy's rich musical heritage, adapted for a new generation. 2011 was a year of expansion and adaptation. Il Volo embarked on their first international tours, performing in intimate theaters and gradually moving to larger arenas. Their music resonated in places where Italian was not spoken, where opera was often considered distant or outdated. Fans discovered that this was not just classical music repackaged. It was raw emotion, youthful energy, and technical brilliance fused into one. Television appearances in the United States and Latin America began to accumulate, exposing audiences to a sound that felt at once timeless and modern. By 2013, the group had become a household name in multiple countries. They released their second album, Il Volo Takes Flight, featuring original songs alongside covers of timeless classics. Critics began to take serious notice. Here was a young group capable of maintaining classical integrity while appealing to pop sensibilities. That year also marked the first major test of endurance. Touring schedules grew relentless. Flights between continents, performances in multiple languages, interviews, rehearsals, the glamour of the stage collided with the exhaustion of being constantly on. Behind the smiles and polished performances, the first strains of fatigue appeared. The boys learned the hard truth that fame is a double-edged sword. Adoration and pressure often arrive hand in hand. 2015 was a watershed moment. Il Volo entered the Sanremo Music Festival with the song Grande Amore. Their performance was raw, emotional, and breathtaking. The audience was captivated by the depth of feeling in their voices, and when the final note lingered in the air, a stunned silence gave way to thunderous applause. Il Volo won Sanremo that year, cementing their status not just as young stars, but as serious artists with the power to move millions. Soon after, they were chosen to represent Italy in the Eurovision Song Contest in Vienna, performing the same song. Though they finished third, they won the hearts of the public vote, demonstrating the global appeal of their harmonies. Television screens across Europe, and later the world, showcased their brilliance. Their voices soared, touching hearts from Italy to Russia, from Spain to the United States. In 2016, Il Volo faced the challenge of transforming international acclaim into lasting presence. The world expected more: albums, tours, televised performances, collaborations. Their repertoire expanded to include pop hits reimagined in their signature style, original compositions, and tributes to legendary Italian singers. The balance between maintaining classical authenticity and achieving commercial viability became an ongoing struggle. At the same time, private moments of reflection grew more precious. For Gianluca, Piero, and Ignazio, time spent away from the spotlight was when they could remember who they were before the fame. The pressure was not only external, it was deeply internal, a constant question of identity and endurance. By 2017, they were performing in arenas with tens of thousands of fans, an experience that simultaneously thrilled and exhausted them. Fans were relentless, showing devotion that could be overwhelming. Social media amplified every gesture, every tweet, every concert, creating a constant feedback loop that was both exhilarating and suffocating. The boys leaned heavily on each other. Piero's humor became a lifeline, breaking tension during long flights and rehearsals. Ignazio's quiet stability offered comfort when doubts crept in. Gianluca's determination reminded them all why they began this journey. The bond that formed in 2009 had become the bedrock of their survival. 2018 brought both opportunity and strain. A world tour in the Americas expanded their fan base, but the grueling schedule pushed physical and emotional limits. Concerts in North and South America, followed by media appearances in Europe, became a relentless cycle. Every performance demanded technical perfection, emotional vulnerability, and personal sacrifice. In interviews, they maintained cheerful composure, but behind the smiles, fatigue sometimes seeped into the music. Yet the audience never noticed the toll. They only heard the magic, the flawless blending of voices that had made Il Volo famous. 2019 was a year of experimentation. The trio began collaborating with other international artists, including pop stars and classical musicians alike. They released live albums, holiday collections, and embarked on ambitious projects that challenged their artistic range. Each song became an exercise in storytelling, each note an expression of accumulated experience. For viewers and fans, it was a period of celebration. For the group themselves, it was a period of negotiation, balancing artistic curiosity with the relentless demands of public expectation. Then, 2020 arrived, and with it, a global pandemic. Concerts halted, tours canceled, and the world grew silent. For the first time, Il Volo faced months without the stage, without the roar of an audience. This silence forced introspection. They revisited their earliest recordings, their first experiences in television contests, their childhood dreams of singing just for the love of music. In private, they rediscovered the joy of creation without pressure, without cameras, without fans. It was a moment to heal, to reflect, and to plan for the next phase of their journey. By 2021 and 2022, as restrictions eased, Il Volo returned to touring and recording, but the world they re-entered was not the same. Audiences were hungry for live performance, craving connection that had been denied. Every concert carried extra weight. The boys sang not only for themselves, but for fans who had waited patiently, hearts full of longing. Their performances became more than music. They were cathartic experiences, shared emotional journeys between stage and audience. Behind every song, there was the story of resilience, survival, and unbroken passion. Even as they stepped into 2023 and beyond, the trio faced the duality of triumph and exhaustion. The pattern of success intertwined with the weight of expectation remained. Yet, with every note, they proved that they could endure. They continued to innovate, releasing new singles, reimagining classics, performing in multiple languages, and celebrating their Italian roots while appealing to a global audience. Each show became a testament not only to their talent, but to the bond that had carried them from a small Italian television contest to the world stage. Their story is one of evolution, from children with extraordinary voices to international icons balancing fame, artistry, and humanity. It is a story that moves not in neat chapters, but in waves, soaring high with breathtaking highs, descending into quiet moments of doubt, then rising again with renewed strength. And while the world may see only the polished performances, the reality is far more human. Three young men navigating the pressures of fame, the fragility of their own hearts, and the unstoppable force of music that calls them back, night after night. And even now, the journey is far from over. Every tour, every album, every encore is a continuation of the story that began in 2009. The challenges, triumphs, and intimate moments of Gianluca, Piero, and Ignazio remain unwritten in full, a story that stretches into the future. For fans, for the world, for themselves, Il Volo's flight continues, a soaring testament to the power of voice, the endurance of friendship, and the eternal pursuit of dreams that demand everything and give back even more. As Il Volo's fame continued to ripple across continents, the trio found themselves navigating a world that was at once exhilarating and isolating. Behind the sparkling stage lights and roaring applause, there were moments the cameras never captured. Quiet drives between cities, late-night pizza in hotel rooms, and whispered conversations about the future. In 2023, after a particularly grueling European tour, Gianluca suggested they take a spontaneous detour to a small village in Tuscany. It wasn't on the schedule. There were no cameras, no press, just the three of them wandering cobblestone streets and listening to local musicians in a sunlit piazza. The experience, though brief, reminded them why they had started singing together in the first place. Music was not only about perfection or fame, it was about connection, to each other, to their audience, and to the world. That summer, they returned to Italy for a special live performance in Verona's arena. It was a night that blended history with modernity. Beneath the ancient Roman arches, their voices carried across the vast open-air amphitheater, echoing off stone walls that had heard centuries of music before them. Fans had traveled from every corner of Europe, waving flags, clutching albums, and singing along to every note. On stage, Gianluca closed his eyes as he delivered a particularly poignant baritone line. Piero's tenor soared effortlessly, and Ignazio's vibrato threaded through the air like golden light. Backstage, exhausted but exhilarated, they exchanged glances that said what words could not. They had arrived, but their journey was far from over. Later that year, a curious opportunity arose, an invitation to perform in a private concert for a charity gala in Buenos Aires. It was an unusual mix of glitz and intimacy. The venue was a restored theater from the 1920s, its velvet curtains and crystal chandeliers adding a sense of nostalgia to the night. What made it extraordinary, however, was not the setting but the audience, a group of children from underprivileged communities who had been invited to experience classical music for the first time. As Il Volo performed Grande Amore, Gianluca noticed a young girl in the front row, her eyes wide with wonder, mouthing the words as if they were a secret spell. At that moment, the trio realized that their music could transcend borders, languages, and circumstances in ways they had never fully appreciated. 2024 brought both creative reinvention and unexpected challenges. The three decided to experiment with a concept album that fused operatic pop with cinematic storytelling. Each song became a miniature story, blending orchestral arrangements with contemporary electronic elements. Fans were initially skeptical, unsure if the trio could balance classical technique with modern experimentation. But when the album premiered with a surprise live performance in Milan, critics were silenced. The blend was mesmerizing. The audience felt transported into the narratives of love, loss, hope, and triumph, carried on the wings of three voices that had matured into instruments of profound emotional power. It was also a year of personal milestones. Piero quietly celebrated the birth of his first child, a moment that forced the group to reflect on life beyond music. Suddenly, tour schedules and international fame were juxtaposed with sleepless nights, diaper changes, and the weight of new responsibilities. Ignazio and Gianluca embraced their friend's new reality, often teasing him about bedtime lullabies and music practice interruptions. But beneath the humor lay a deep respect for how life continued to evolve, even as their careers soared. These small, intimate moments humanized the trio, reminding fans that behind the glamour were ordinary people experiencing extraordinary lives. Amid the success, rumors swirled in 2025 of a secret recording session in the Italian countryside. The story goes that they rented an old villa overlooking Lake Como, a place rumored to have been visited by legendary composers decades ago. Over several days, they recorded tracks that were never announced to the public, experimenting with haunting melodies, ambient sounds, and even whispers of spoken-word poetry interwoven with music. The sessions were intense, sometimes lasting 14 hours a day, yet they emerged with recordings that even they described as magical, pieces that seemed to capture the essence of youth, friendship, and the fleeting nature of life itself. Their international tours had grown increasingly cinematic. One particularly imaginative concert in Tokyo transformed the stage into a living film set. Holographic cityscapes, flowing waterfalls, and shifting skies complemented the trio's harmonies. Fans said it felt like stepping into another world. The music intertwined with visuals so seamlessly that it became almost surreal. For the first time, Il Volo was not merely performing. They were crafting an immersive narrative experience, inviting the audience to live inside each song, to feel the heartbreak, joy, and wonder in real time. Yet, despite these grand gestures, quiet moments remained central to their story. In late 2025, the three spent an unplanned weekend in a small Sicilian fishing village. Without cameras or schedules, they wandered beaches at sunrise, shared meals with local families, and sang for fishermen who had never heard them on a stage. Ignazio joked that the waves applauded more sincerely than any crowd, while Gianluca quietly admitted that moments like these reminded him why they had chosen music over anything else. Piero simply smiled, letting the serenity of the sea and the simplicity of the day fill the spaces that fame often left hollow. Il Volo had not only solidified their legacy, but also begun mentoring a new generation of young singers in Italy and abroad. They held master classes in Venice, Rome, and Buenos Aires, blending technical instruction with lessons about resilience, stage presence, and the emotional authenticity that had defined their career. Watching the next generation, they saw reflections of themselves, dreams bright, voices untested, hearts ready to soar. It was both humbling and invigorating, reminding them that their journey was not only about performance, but about nurturing the future of music. Even as their fame had grown global, their story remained intensely personal. There were nights when the applause faded and the lights dimmed, and the three would sit together, guitars and pianos scattered across the room, improvising songs that might never be recorded, sharing laughter that had nothing to do with contracts or social media, and reminding themselves that at the heart of it all, music was a living, breathing connection between souls. And so the story of Il Volo continues, not in headlines or chart positions, but in the countless private, ephemeral moments that weave together the lives of three young men who dared to dream together. Each concert, each recording, each quiet reflection adds another layer to a journey that is far from complete. Their voices carry the weight of history, the joy of youth, and the infinite possibilities of tomorrow. And as long as they sing, the story moves forward, soaring into new horizons yet unseen. The world was buzzing with whispers of what was next for Il Volo. Gianluca, Piero, and Ignazio had conquered stages across continents, yet behind the dazzling lights and thunderous applause, there were decisions that would shape their very souls. Fans speculated, journalists pressed for answers, but the truth was far more intimate, far more raw than anyone could imagine. They were no longer just three voices melding into perfection. They were three lives intertwined by ambition, dreams, and the relentless weight of expectation. After their last European tour, whispers of a secret project began to circulate. The trio spent weeks secluded in a villa outside Rome, the rooms filled with the low hum of piano chords, the scratch of guitar strings, and the quiet mutterings of ideas. Gianluca, ever the perfectionist, pored over melodies late into the night, adjusting phrasing, chasing nuances that only he seemed to hear. Ignazio, whose energy was as unpredictable as it was magnetic, brought raw emotion to every note, his voice a storm barely contained. Piero, steady and thoughtful, anchored them, weaving their individuality into a singular, unshakable harmony. But the nights were long, and the quiet tension between them was undeniable. There were disagreements, moments of frustration, and nights where silence fell heavy over the villa, thick with unspoken fears. In one particularly charged evening, a disagreement over a song's arrangement escalated into sharp words. Gianluca insisted on a classical bridge. Ignazio demanded a modern flair, and Piero struggled to mediate, caught between loyalty and vision. The air felt electric, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Then, suddenly, Gianluca stood, a spark of revelation in his eyes. "What if we don't just choose one?" he whispered. Ignazio's brow furrowed. Piero leaned forward. "What if we merge them?" That one thought broke the tension. They worked until dawn, laughter and tears mingling in the quiet of the villa, creating something neither could have done alone. It was the birth of a sound that would define them for years to come. Behind the music, their personal lives were no less stormy. Gianluca's relationship with a mysterious figure from Milan remained a subject of speculation, fueled by fleeting glimpses at gala events and hushed interviews. Piero faced family pressures he rarely revealed, the responsibility of being the quiet backbone of the trio weighing heavily on him. Ignazio, ever the extrovert, grappled with public expectations that often clashed with his private desire for solitude. The trio, though inseparable on stage, were three individuals carrying invisible burdens. Tours resumed, but this time with an intensity that left audiences breathless. From the theaters of Buenos Aires to the grand halls of Vienna, each performance felt like a battle and a blessing simultaneously. Their voices, once pure and youthful, had matured into instruments capable of conveying heartbreak, longing, and triumph with a precision that made audiences weep without words. Backstage, the tension simmered, but also sparked creativity. Every argument, every late-night disagreement, every moment of doubt became a fuel that refined their craft. During one particularly stormy night in Florence, they held an impromptu rehearsal in a small, candlelit chapel. The rain pounded the stained glass, thunder rolling across the hills, but inside, their voices intertwined in a haunting harmony that seemed to pull the very storm outside into their music. They sang songs that had yet to be released, each note layered with years of unspoken fear, hope, and longing. The storm outside became a reflection of the storm within them, and when the final chord faded, silence hung heavy, broken only by the sound of their ragged breathing. In that moment, the trio understood something unspoken. Their unity was fragile, but it was also unbreakable. Amidst all of this, the media frenzy intensified. Every public appearance was dissected, every gesture analyzed. Rumors of solo projects swirled, whispers of tensions ran rampant. Yet the trio remained outwardly composed, masters of a carefully crafted public persona. But the private truth was far more vulnerable. Behind the velvet curtains of glittering stages and sparkling interviews, there were sleepless nights, quiet conversations in hotel rooms, and shared doubts that would never make headlines. One evening in Rome, following a gala performance, Gianluca confided in Piero and Ignazio, his voice barely audible over the city's distant hum. "We're on the edge," he said. "Not of music, but of ourselves. Sometimes I wonder if we can hold this, if the voices are enough." Ignazio placed a hand on his shoulder, his eyes serious, uncharacteristically still. "The voices are enough, because we are enough," he said simply. Piero nodded, the weight of years passing silently between them. That night, they walked the streets of Rome, three figures moving in perfect unison, shadows among shadows, yet bound by something stronger than fame or applause. Then came an unexpected invitation, a prestigious award ceremony in Paris. The trio had to perform a medley of their most iconic pieces, but also present a new song no one had heard. The stakes were immense. As they stood backstage, hearts hammering in rhythm with the building audience, memories of their struggles and triumphs flooded them. Each note, each lyric, was not just a performance. It was a declaration of survival, of resilience, of a bond that refused to fracture, despite the pressures surrounding them. From the first note, the audience was captivated. Gianluca's piercing high tenor cut through the tension. Ignazio's velvety lower range wrapped the melody in warmth, and Piero's lyrical clarity tethered the chaos into perfection. Cameras flashed, fans wept, Critics scribbled furiously, but none of them could truly grasp the layers of sweat, heartbreak, and personal sacrifice hidden behind each note. By the final chord, silence fell for a heartbeat before the audience erupted, applause crashing like a tidal wave, a testament to their genius and the invisible battles fought to reach that stage. Backstage, amidst the chaos of congratulations and flashing cameras, the trio shared a rare private moment. They laughed, they argued, they teased. Three friends, three brothers in sound, three souls who had walked through fire together. Yet beneath the surface, each carried secrets, fears, and unspoken dreams that had yet to see the light. There were letters never sent, songs never recorded, and decisions that would haunt or elevate them depending on the path they chose. And so, the story of Il Volo continues, not just in music, not just in tours or awards, but in the fragile, raw, and electric humanity of Gianluca, Piero, and Ignazio. For every standing ovation, there is a sleepless night. For every flawless performance, there is a shadow of doubt. And in the spaces between the notes, in the pauses, in the quiet moments of reflection, their story pulses, alive, complicated, unending, and waiting for the next chapter to unfold.